Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Del Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wiki Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to my program in which I take an individual film, and me and my special guest sit down, have a conversation, discuss, critique, analyze this particular film. Now, this month, we are doing an amazing themed month in which we are focusing on franchises. And you are just in time for us to get to the final installment of one of my most divisive franchises, which is the Basket Case franchise. And we are going to be discussing Basket Case 3, The Progeny, from 1992. Had to make sure of that. And to talk about this film, I brought on Mr. Dave Watkins, who I want to thank for joining me on this basket case of a franchise.
So it's actually 1991, but the movie,
91.
it, according to the Wikipedia anyway. But not that that matters a year, what does it matter? But why do you say divisive out of curiosity about the film?
Because what happened, this is one of those weird franchises where I either hear people talk about the first one and not the sequels, or I hear the people talk about the sequels and not the first one, or the third one is usually the one that's always ignored. So I'm very curious to see what you think about the third film in this franchise, and it just so happens to have, in my opinion, been a good kind of ending for this odd, strange little franchise, which is unlike most other horror franchises out there. It's hard
Right.
to find another one that's as odd and weird and strange as this franchise.
Yeah, and yeah, it could have kept going really past this. I think they kind of set up a pretty bizarre and interesting world that they could have kept going. But I know the director didn't even really want to do this one. Even after the first one, he thought he'd finished the story, but then it was like the money was there, and he like they kept saying, "Hey, why don't you make another basket case? Here's some money," and he's like, "Yeah, all right, I guess we'll do that." But it's like at the same time, I think it's very creative and it's a lot of fun, really, and it's goofy. But and I think, like I said, like I think that he could have done more with it. He could have kept going and gotten even more insane with it.
Especially with the way this one ended,
Yeah.
it's gotten really insane. But it's interesting that you say that because this film, we talked about it in their previous episode about the second film in the franchise, where none of the other the freaks, or what was our special word for them? Uh,
Well, unique individuals is their PC way of describing which are really it's like a freak show. They look like monsters, and some of them, like one dude has like these huge teeth hanging out of his mouth that there's it's
yeah,
but yeah, but they, like we talked about on the second one, they don't really say that much. Maybe one or two of them talks or even grunts. And apparently that was like a an issue with the I found out from listening to an actor's interview. It was like because if they grunted or talked or anything like that, then they were eligible for a speaking role in SAG,
mhm.
and they didn't want to have to pay them more. But in this one, it's different. It looks
Oh
like they
yeah.
didn't care about that, and the creatures are mumbling, they're talking, they're making all kinds of noises, and the makeup is significantly better on the monsters, and it's like they improved it in between. It's like they put some thought into it, and they're like, you know what, we could improve this and make it look, not that it looks realistic because they're monsters, but it does look like they did some improvements to every one of them, really.
Yeah, well, that was one of the main things I wanted to comment about this film is that so many of them actually talk in this movie. And the one thing I really did love about this movie is they actually named all of them. They gave
Yeah.
a name on the and it's the bus roll call, so to speak,
Hmm.
that was it the Granny Ruth does when they're
Yeah.
traveling to.
Yeah. So now they got names, so it's harder to figure it out who they are, because before they were like named like Moonface or whatever. Now they got like a name, so it's like
But
which ones? What is that, half moon, I guess? Yeah, but I don't know.
if I was writing down all their names, I could have related it. But it was interesting because we didn't get something like that in the first film.
Yeah.
In this one, we definitely get that sense that it's a little bit more personable since we get to know the names right off the bat of all the characters. And I do like the fact that this movie is like a direct sequel to what happens in the second film, and they actually show that again in
Yeah.
regards to what happened in the previous films to start off.
Right. They show 5 minutes. I counted. I put the counter on for it. The 5 minutes of the last 5 minutes of Basket Case 2 at the start of this, starting with Belial and Eve, the two
Yes.
little mini monsters having sex in a very graphic way. That's how it starts.
I had forgotten that that's how the movie started. I was like, oh, okay, that's right. I guess this is how we're gonna start it. Let's have the two Belial and his girl having sex. That's how we're gonna open the movie. All right. This movie does not is not bashful or ashamed at all. So yeah, that's how we started off.
Yeah, so and it's like the sex noises are hilarious because of how enthusiastic they are, like the even like the Eve character especially. It's like it's I guess yeah, but it's
I was actually really impressed with the practical effects on how they made all of that actually work in this movie. To be
yeah.
uh it shows that when they got a bigger budget, the director Frank Henenlotter decided to kind of up the ante in regards to the practical effects in the film, compared especially compared to the first one. um but they just seem to get better with this third one. So like I don't know all the details, but what it seemed like the second one was successful, and they got a little bit more money instead of getting less money, and they made this one a little bit more elaborate. Because when we see, what is it, Little Hal in the Hall of his freak glory later on in the film, you could realize that they put a lot of money in crafting all the different types of individuals in this film. So
Right, and they're on screen a lot too. They're a lot on screen a lot in the second one, but there's a lot of because of the monsters. There's a lot of practical special effects in the film,
yeah,
r
yeah.
really in the second one as well. But it's there's a lot on screen in these movies because the first one was just Belial was really the only creature, but the second one and third one are just like I don't know. There's probably a good 20 of them. I would guess. I didn't count them, but there's probably somewhere around 15 to 20, I would think.
Yeah, and only a handful of them don't show up in this film, and then of course they bring in Little Hal. So like we don't see
Yeah.
like the Gargoyle one show back up. Which
Right.
was funny when we talked about the second film. We don't see him in this
Yeah.
one.
Well, the gargoyle was never like part of the group. He just hangs out on the house,
Yes. Yeah, same with the
because
frog. The frog too.
yeah, yeah, Frog doesn't return either. But
No,
but
no,
there are some new ones in here too. Because I didn't recognize some of them from before, and there's like I don't know, there's one that was like a guy dressed up kind of like a girl, I guess, a more effeminate one but it looks like that's kind of I don't even remember exactly how he looks, but he's got a monster look to him. But
yes.
there's a couple of other ones too. I don't like I can't say exactly what their features were, but there were definitely a few I didn't recognize from the second one.
No, no, I did the same thing. Yeah, I didn't recognize him either. I thought that was good too, especially considering that they give a lot of them lines in this one.
Yeah.
So for anyone who haven't seen the Basket Case 3, the Progeny, obviously we've already talked about the sex scene in the very beginning. But that's from the previous film, and the brother Dwayne has a little bit of a freak out when he realizes the girl that he's attracted to actually is also a freak, and he accidentally kills her. Um,
Right. And then after that he really loses his mind and he decides he wants to put his brother back, he sew his brother back to his side, and then that's how it ends. And this one begins after all that. We see all that again. It begins with him sitting in a padded cell, which we may think it's an insane asylum, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it looks like it might be an insane asylum until Granny Ruth opens up the little slot and reveals it's her. Uh,
Yeah, they made a padded cell in the basement of Granny's house, and he's in a straitjacket, which is kind of doesn't quite fit him, but
it's funny watching them try to get out of it too because it doesn't fit them at all. Uh,
yeah,
they just use what they had, but that's fine because what happens is this is I don't actually it's some time after the events of the second one when we get to this moment where he's in the padded cell, because Granny Ruth comes to see him and tells him that they are all taking a trip because Eve is with child. Now we don't know. I don't think that she's going to be with child for 9 months like your typical female. Uh, so
Right, yeah. Um, yeah, just so it's hard to get the visual. I don't, people probably know, but Eve is like Belial, who is how would you describe these like these characters? You know,
Belial,
Mr. Potato Head looking things, you know?
yeah, you said that before.
Yeah,
Belial is more very much like a square or cube, a
yeah.
cube like creature because of the lack of legs.
They
But
look a little. I think they look a little bit like the Rancor monster, like a mini version of it or something, you know?
that's a good point. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
And Eve actually has some limbs, so the scenes with the intercourse are very visually interesting for that fact alone. Because for the
yeah,
most part in the second film, we didn't see her at all. She was under covers the entire time, hiding herself
yeah.
from Bilal and everyone else. So,
Yeah, she's yeah. In this one, she's very pregnant, and it's like gotten really big, like her stomach anyway. Her head's still really small, so
yeah, I don't always agree with the way they did that effect, but it's the way they did it where she's pregnant. She's very pregnant and she's very much about to give birth. Which is why Granny Ruth is putting all of the freaks together to go onto a bus to travel to Big Hal, who can assist with birthing someone who does not is not normal. Like in Georgia, because it's I have to mention it in Georgia, a Big Hal is lives, and he and Granny Ruth have had some type of relationship previously, or the friendship, really. So they're
yeah.
going to him because she trusts him. He's the only person that she trusts with her people, so to speak. So
Right, and yeah, we've in the second film there was there was some talk about Granny Ruth having a kid. I think he had like 11 arms and he died. But here we find out that he isn't dead and he's actually Hal has been keeping him and he calls him
little Hal.
like was Little Hal. And yeah, the relationship between Granny and the other Hal is unclear whether or not they were really if they were in a relationship or if they were just friends. But I think they were just friends.
They were just
But
friends.
Big Yeah, it's I guess like it's odd that Big Hal has taken her son though, and raised him when yeah, I guess she wasn't able to do it because of the trouble she got into
I think that's part of it. I think it's part of the troubles that she got into,
from like when they said they had to she had to like yeah
the commune and everything like that from the second film. Like this is all background information that we get about Granny Ruth, her commune, which was had to be ended, and that's what had happened. So I think that little Hal to kind of save him, she sent him off to be with Big Hal. I'm still confused about why we call him Little Hal, but that's okay. But that's the only safe haven that Granny Ruth believes that's still.
yeah I guess that's the weird thing about it I think too yeah
Yeah. So, um, you know, I they're
the
all
I
prepping.
like the bus ride I like the bus ride stuff though
It's the bus ride stuff is really freaking hilarious. They're singing a song and they're all making it look like they almost like little kids would be on a bus to school type of bus ride, except for Dwayne, who is still uh not exactly all.
yeah
Now, the funny thing about this is that in this film, they had to take Belial off of Dwayne after he had surgically or sewed them back together again, and now Belial isn't talking to Dwayne. And I thought that was an interesting concept to have for like this entire film. The
yeah
fact that these two brothers are not talking to one another for the duration of the.
right we don't have yeah yeah
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, we don't see Belial on screen for 30. Yeah, we don't see Belial on screen for like until about 30 minutes into it. We see the basket, but we don't actually see him for a long time because he won't talk to Dwayne. And Granny and everybody's like, yeah, just stay away from him. He doesn't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't think I remembered that until I rewatched it And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting dynamic to have for the third film here. The two brothers who have been inseparable for the first two movies are now not speaking to one another. And it's more affecting Dwayne than it is Bilal at this point because Bilal is about to become a father to the children of Eve, so he's got different things on his mind. So
Right, yeah. And it adds some extra tension to the film, and it adds like a new mystery to the film because you're not seeing Bilal, and it's like what's going on with him. Where in the second film it was the opposite, where it focused on Bilal a lot in the first 30 minutes and not as much Dwayne, and then Dwayne woke up from his kind of coma that he was in, and then had to experience all the monsters in the house and stuff, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, thankfully, for the way they do in this film, Dwayne is not someone who even wants to be in that position, even though he's told that he's about to be an uncle. He's trying to escape at every chance he gets. When they drive the bus into town for the first time, he's still trying to squeeze out the bus window to escape.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and then there's a when he does that, he actually meets the sheriff's daughter, who looks a little bit like Susan from the other film, but she got a pretty decent Southern accent, and it's kind of her character's kind of funny because he kind of is you're thinking she might be set up as a love interest sort of character, but and he kind of treats her a little bit like that, like she's a more sympathetic character, but she ends up not being that way at all, you know?
I had forgotten that because I don't know why I kept forgetting all the stuff in the third movie, whereas the second movie I remembered completely when we watched that. Because almost every time I've ever watched these movies, I've watched them back to back, the second and third one back to back. So it's kind of weird that I remember the second movie more than I remember the third movie. But yeah, I didn't. The relationship between them starts off to being something that could be blossom into something else. But as we talk about this film, we'll realize really fast that is not what she is after, really. She's a
Yeah,
much different character.
yeah, there's some really bizarreness to that aspect of it, which is like which actually works really good because you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like with Susan and the other one, you don't expect her to have that little monster come out of her stomach. I mean, you knew something was going to happen, but um, it is the movies are tragedies, like all three of them, because they can't have like Dwayne can't have Susan. I mean, can Bilal have Eve? We'll find out by the end of this conversation. But in the first one, they can't. The two brothers can't even have each other because they end up falling out of the building and onto the ground and seemingly die at the end of it. So they're all three kind of set up in tragic ways of possible relationships that are going to end in a tragic way.
No, that's an interesting thing to bring up because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're right. All three of them have a type of tragic circumstances the way that they end up. Even this one, even the way it ends, there's a lot of tragedy. Probably more so in this one than some of the other ones. The way that some of the characters end up at the end here. But it's
Yeah,
that Bilal's basket is on the outside of the bus the entire bus ride into town. So and
yeah. And it's hardly secured down. I think the thing would like hit a bump and just roll out or something.
yeah, I know. Oh man, I thought about that while I was watching it. I was like, huh, he's on the outside. He's just kind of hopefully they get a smooth ride to Georgia.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I do
But
before we get too far, I do want to mention that early before that, when we first meet Big Hal, we also meet the sheriff of the town. The sheriff comes to see Big Hal and Little Hal specifically to give him some more stuff because Little Hal's an inventor and a tinkerer, and the sheriff knows at least rudimentary that Little Hal is not 100% normal. And so I like that creative aspect to the character where he's not flat out trying to get rid of freaks in his town. He knows about Little Hal. He just doesn't know to what extent
right.
because he hasn't seen Little Hal since he was a little kid from the way that he acts. But it's
Well, I
interesting.
think yeah. A sheriff I mean that scene is it's kind of cool because you cut to the outside of the house, and this is a location we don't know where they're going on the bus, but that's where they're going. But we cut to it, we don't know what it is, and the sheriff comes there and he talks to a character we've never seen before, and we sees a picture of a little Hal, like what he like a portrait painting on the wall of little Hal with all these extra arms when he was a baby, and then but and then eventually like a cart comes out with coffee and it makes coffee for the sheriff, and he's like, oh, it's pretty good. Hal does good coffee. And then when he does leave, he looks up on the roof and Hal's up on the roof, and it's like we see his face, a kind of younger character. I guess he's maybe in his 20s or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Um, but this, yeah, I mean, the sheriff begins this as almost like a sympathetic character. Not that he's necessarily unlikable later on. I think he kind of is in a situation that with other police and stuff that ends up escalating because of how dumb some of the other characters are.
Yeah, and what happens to his daughter? Which what is his daughter's name?
I think Oval or Opal. I think,
Oh,
Opal, yeah. Oval, like her name's Oval. It's Opal. Yeah, what's funny is she says her name to Dwayne the first time he sees her, and then later on when he comes to the police station, he sees her. He's like, oh, "Hey, I forgot your name, but I mean, I remember you earlier."
yeah.
And
What's
that's
great?
such a yeah. Because that's like kind of how that would really happen too, It's like, it's really hard to remember people's names, like, and then it's like funny that he didn't remember. It's like, because you're expecting like this connection, like between these two characters, can't even remember her name.
And you know what? I forgot about that. You're absolutely right. That is kind of interesting. I did not think about that until now. That he completely forgot her name because I remember him
Yeah,
forgetting. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
yeah. I mean, but I think that's maybe the only time she says her name when she introduces herself to him. But
I think so.
it's
Yeah.
not. Oh, Opal's kind of a odd name, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there named Opal who are like, "What? What's wrong with Opal?"
I I'm not gonna say about the bad name of the name of Opal because of our listener. Might actually be named Opal. I will say this though.
Odds are unlikely, but maybe.
I'm not sure if there's anyone out there from Georgia whose name is Opal. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's not a name I hear. I don't know if I've heard it in shows or
Yeah.
especially older shows. I think it was an older comedy show where like someone's character's name was Opal. I can't remember what it was, but it's definitely an old name.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I agree with you on that one. I agree with you. But after they leave, well, I won't get too far. But when they get to town, and while Dwayne is meeting up with or meeting Opal for the first time, Granny Roof's inside this, I guess, drugstore slash novelty store, just
Yeah.
picking up all these items that we all know to give to all of her wards in the bus. When she encounters the sheriff, but
Well,
go ahead.
yeah. So the funniest one when she gets to the condoms and there's like a rack of condoms and she just like takes like a bunch of them and shoves them into the basket and she's like, "Do you have any extra large condoms?" Yeah.
I'm like, that right there. I don't know who's using those condoms, but it is a hilarious scene to think about.
Yeah.
It just keeps dropping them in her buggy, in her little basket of stuff. And I'm wondering, I don't know who's using them.
No.
uh,
Well, we find out later on they party pretty good, those monsters. So I guess they have some
oh my,
orgies going on. But and
uh,
and it's like, and she's trying to be safe because Bilal got Eve pregnant. So she's like, you know what, we're gonna like just try to have this not happen again.
oh, but dude, I didn't think about that. Yeah, she's probably was buying them for the party that happens later on. Oh my god. That's probably you know what, you just made it clear for me. That's what she goes in there to buy all these freaking random gifts and items and stuff for the party. So
Yeah,
yeah, oh gee, I didn't even think about that, dude. Uh,
yeah. I, but she just knows one of them needs an extra large one, so she has to have seen it, it has to be very, so maybe that's the one that she likes. That's for her.
it's Moonface. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a moon face.
Because
No, it's probably the really tall one though, this is that really tall one that's got
the
the
one that
eye.
one that's driving the bus or the other one?
I don't know. There's like one scene where like someone's sitting, he's standing up real tall, I think behind somebody, and he's like he's as tall as the ceiling.
Hmm. I
It's
know the
probably that one.
yeah, the one who's driving the bus who can't exactly drive, and I'm wondering why
Yeah,
Ruth isn't driving.
yeah, right, right.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because she has to go back there and sing, remember they sing that song and all that, and it's, which is
feels
actually pretty hilarious.
it is hilarious. It feels a little out of place when I first heard it, but after a while, it's like, oh my god, it just seems perfect for this group of characters to be singing a song while they're
Yeah.
driving in the bus. So, because they're
What the funniest part about it is like she sings some of it, and then the monsters start singing, and whatever they're singing, you can't understand a single word that they're saying. It's like they're unintelligible like words, and that's what makes it so damn funny, I think.
oh Jesus. Uh But then next after that we get Grady Ruth finally gets to Big Hal's house. And uh Big Hal knows most of these characters that are wards of Grady Ruth. Like he's reintroducing us to a lot of them again, by the way. He's saying most of their names, every one of them that comes up to them, even being introduced to the ones he hasn't met before. So it seems like a genuine scene with authenticity when he does that, because these are all characters he hasn't seen in a while. Even when Ruth finally gets a chance to see her son, it's like, oh, I haven't seen you in forever. So uh, that all seems so authentic to me, and that's when we learn that little Hal is actually, Ruth's son. Which is it.
Well, yeah, yeah, and then yeah. We also like it's interesting when he meets Dwayne because he doesn't know Dwayne, and Dwayne is like he says something real funny. He asked him if he could borrow a Swiss Army knife. He's like he's oh, you must be Dwayne. He's like, do you have a Swiss Army knife? And then Hal's like, are we gonna have trouble, like a problem with this guy?
Because like this is such a different. Well, in the second movie, Dwayne's trying to get away, but he's trying to get away because he thinks his brother has finally found somebody, and he's found somebody, and he wants to get away because he wants to be normal. But nowhere in this film that I don't believe it, or I don't remember he ever thinks himself normal. He just wants to get away with his brother, uh, completely.
And
Like,
yeah. At one point, he actually wants to get away with the Opal character. He's like already like infatuated with her at one point. He's like saying they could get away together. It's like, and this is like before. It's like I think he like attaches to people like really quick like in a really hilariously quick way. Just a little bit of a kind attention towards him, and he's like already imagining like a life with him. They're running away to go hide somewhere.
well, that's what happened in the first film. That's what happened in the second film, and that's what's happening in the third film until she starts to act a little bit more aggressive towards him, a little bit more kinky,
Yeah,
which is not what he's used to because he's not
yeah,
very knowledgeable about women.
yeah. I think he liked that okay though. I don't think he has a problem with it, but he's kind of a little taken back by it. But it was
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, she is very unexpectedly kinky. It's hilarious when that happens too.
It is. But yeah, getting back to the scene that makes it really important is that, or absurdly important, is the fact that as everyone's off the bus, Eve's water breaks, and it feels like her water breaks. And it's like a what do you call it? Olympic-sized swimming pool of water exiting the bus. So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have, I think it's two,
right.
three of them are carrying her out of the bus to take her to the room where she will probably, finish her labor and then give birth. And that version of Eve that you're taking out of the bus looks like a really small version of Eve. Uh, Especially
We
because
should have like a lot of water break though.
yeah, but she still has a lot of a litter of babies inside of her, so she'll think that she can
Right.
small. Uh, which is very hilarious. But the thing is, once they get Eve into the room that she is going to give birth in, they bring in Belial, and this is where I think this is the first time where we really get a good look
Yeah.
at Bilal. So,
Yeah.
Hal's in there. Hal's in there. Little Hal's in there. Little Hal's hilarious in this scene because he's got the video camera recording everything and he's commenting on everything. Like,
Right.
but as Big Hal is prepping the room with Eve about to give birth, Bilal has a flashback to when he had his operation when he was separated from his brother, which drives him completely nuts. So much.
Well, yeah. Well, Hal's like dressed up like a doctor, and the
Yeah,
people who killed, I mean, he just separated them, and they later killed in revenge were all doctors. So doctors, he doesn't like them.
yeah, yeah. But it was a really. It started off as a really nice ideal of having Bilal in the room as his girlfriend's giving birth to the kids. They thought it was going to be a beautiful thing, and it becomes a quick bloodbath where Big Hal gets maimed by
Yeah.
Bilal, so much so that they have to take Bilal out of the room and lock him up with chains over his wicker basket for
Well,
the
yeah.
yes.
Well, it's funny that here's a granny's line. She's like, "Bilal, that was not a constructive way to express your feelings. Get him out of here." And then they take Bilal and they shove him into the basket and chain it up. And but Hal's like, real. I mean, Big Hal's like really messed up. He's got like slash marks across his face, and that, I mean, he kind of he's incapacitated for the rest of the film. He
Yeah,
never has any more scenes, other than when he's laying in a bed or something. It's
yeah, I kept
this,
thinking that he came back at some point, but no, he's laid up in the bed for the remainder of the film. Which is I probably
yeah. I'm surprised they didn't. Yeah.
no. Go ahead.
I'm surprised they didn't just kill him at that point, but it's like, but I guess that would have made it a little.
Dark.
It's better that they didn't kill him, but yeah, like, I guess like Little Hal would have been more upset about him dying, so it would have made the proceedings after that less fun
Yeah.
when she gives birth.
Well, yeah, when she starts to give birth and we see the baby Belial's the first baby Belial. And then and the thing is, Little Hal's making this commentary. I wish I could like his whole setup of lines for as Eve's giving birth to one, then two, then three.
Yeah,
Oh, and it just keeps going. Do you remember how many she actually ended up having? Was it even? No, was it
it was 12 is what it ended up being. It's 12 of them.
just 12? So yeah,
Yeah.
imagine Eve giving birth to all the 12 babies, a litter of babies, all still attached by a single umbilical cord. It's a hilarious scene, just so that you know. Uh, I had forgotten how funny it was until I was rewatching. I was like, oh my God, this film went there.
Yeah. It's kind of like yeah, I don't know. It seems like this 12 is a lot though. It's like holy shit. I mean, you only needed like I mean, especially when I thought there's one came out and then I thought it was gonna be like three, but then it kept going. But it got like a bunch of little Belials and then at the end of the tail end of that, Granny says, "I wish Belial was here. It's just so difficult to know what he's thinking." And then it shows Belial, it shows the basket, and then Belial has a dream sequence when he's in there with these two nude models who are like all like rubbing on him and all this and reading him poetry, you know.
Yes, the
It's,
twins. Oh my God.
yeah. That was like, yeah, that's what he's thinking. Apparently, like we never see what Bilal's thinking, but that's what it is.
So yeah, so he thinks he's getting it on with two normal sized women in his dreams and fantasies while his girlfriend's giving birth to a dozen kids. It's hilarious as shit.
Yeah.
But I guess they have to have a dream sequence of some type in each one of these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, but then another monster comes out there to the basket. And he's like, "Wake up, dude! You're a dad." To Bilal. Then they bring Bilal back inside, and there's like this hilarious look on his face when he sees the kids, and there's 12 of them. It was like, "Oh wow, this is like." It was almost like his face just kind of drops. It's hilarious. Um,
You don't know what to expect.
yeah. Yeah, it's very expressive for I'm assuming like it's still a puppet, but a very expressive look on his face. While that's happening, that's when Dwayne goes to the police station because he wants to get arrested so they can put him back with his brother. But then they actually they actually do arrest him and put him behind bars, and he decides that he actually doesn't want to be arrested anymore at that point.
Mhm.
And then there's two sheriff's deputies who are like, there's a younger one and a kind of middle-aged one, and they're kind of they find out about this them being wanted, and there's a reward, and then they decide they're going to go back to the house and get they did this in the other one too, like with the reporters. I mean, they're reporters, like they want to get Belial. It's like they got Dwayne. They get some money. They don't have to have Belial too. But getting Belial is like a really dangerous thing.
Yeah, yeah, because they all look at the wanted poster. It usually has Dwayne's picture on it and not Belial's. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
right. Yeah, it has Dwayne's picture on it, but they're always greedy. They want to go get Belial too, so they can get more of the reward money.
yeah. So
Um,
go ahead.
yeah, but then when it's funny because Dwayne's put in there, and he's like he says in the prison, and he's like behind the bars, and he's like to Opal, he's like, I trusted you, and Opal's like, Dwayne, it's not my fault you're a major criminal.
Well, that scene before she could only be with a what did she get, an honest guy. I forget her exact. She could only be with a I think it's an honest guy, and I think
Yeah, I
he was
wrote down a little bit of it. She's like, she can only love people who tell the truth, and then there's something else, and also stand naked in front of everyone and say, this is who I am. And it's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I could do that.
yeah, I think that's what Dwayne was doing, and that's why his ass ended up in jail. Because the truth is that he is a criminal. But like you said, the deputies take it a little bit further than that, because she's not doing it because of money or anything like that. They are, and so they decide that they can go get Belial, or at least evidence of Belial, to get that money. Greed as usual, which is
Yeah.
always happens in these movies, which is fine. The outside people are seen as the enemies to these unique individuals. So that's fine that we see the police be the group that is the kind of like the outsiders slash evil slash bad guys, whereas in the last film it was the reporters and society at large who saw them all as being, freaks.
Yeah.
So
Right. And it was funny, like I mean, this whole thing though, it's like the gags are it's just funny though. There's like so much hilarious stuff happens, but then it goes back to the house, and the monsters are in there, or the unique individuals are in there partying, and then Belial's in the kitchen eating. He's got spaghetti like all over the place, and they're like, Belial, you've eaten. That's our supper. You eaten all the spaghetti.
I thought that was an odd and funny scene at the same time. I was like, oh my god, I don't think we've ever seen Bilal eat in these movies, and he's eating the spaghetti in this scene.
Right, yeah, yeah, but it's like Bilal's like so upset about the kids. And he's like he doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like he wants to take responsibility for the kids. He sees them and he's like, I'm out. I'm gonna go eat all the spaghetti.
Oh Jesus.
But see, it's like Granny cares about the kids a lot, but Bilal's not like he's gonna be like an absentee father. He's gonna bail.
You know what? That's an
It,
interesting way of looking at it, especially this early in the film. I think you're absolutely right. That's his kind of reaction, his thoughts about being a dad to 12 kids
yeah.
at once. Yeah.
It's funny. The Granny comes in and tells all the monsters they need to be quiet, and there's too much going on with the babies and all that, trying to sleep. And she takes like 5 steps away, and then they all just start partying again. They stop for 2 seconds and then start again. She's not even out of the room. It,
Well, she goes, and then she goes to look in on Eve, and of course she makes comment that everyone's having fun out there, celebrating the joyous occasion and stuff. I she does Ruth stay in? I think the Ruth stays in the room.
yeah, what happens? That's when we see Hal. She goes into Hal's room where he's recovering, and she sends there's another monster sitting with him, and she sends
Yeah,
him down to tell the other ones to be quiet again, and that's when the deputies like do their stuff.
which is interesting because deputies are first outside of the house and they see the monsters partying.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then when they went, one deputy's like, I think we come across some kind of weird satanic cult. And then, there's like that's the kind of middle-aged one, and then the younger ones like starts to panic. Before that happens, the younger one's like telling him all these jokes about monsters and all these other ones they saw, and then he starts to get real scared. And then the middle-aged deputy, like he says, "We came here to get $1 million, and that's what we're going to get." And then they see like a window, and then they look in and they see they're then they're like, "Did you find the Bradley monster?" And then they come across the babies eventually, and then one younger deputy's like, "What are they?" And then the other one's like, "They're little baby Bilals, a shitload of baby Bilals. This must be his puppies or something. If these are his puppies, we can use them as bait." Yeah, but then they're real dumb, It's like they're gonna take the baby monsters.
just yeah. Although, if they were thinking at the time, they could say, "Well, we got baby Bilals. Let's just go ahead and get our rewards based on the baby Bilals."
Yeah, they're gonna use them as bait. It's funny they continuously like the cops and the later Opal they consider them like pets. But that's what Eve's in the room and she hears them taking the babies and she comes out growling at them and then they shoot her like the deputies shoot her and kill Eve and
Mm,
then take off with the babies and then which is pretty brutal.
yeah,
Kind of sucks to kill her, but it does set into the events into motion for the rest of the film. Kind of like it starts like the which traditionally with the basket case films, they are a revenge film. So this is it sets into motion Belial's revenge rampage that everybody comes to these films to see.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, but then they take once again the monsters other than Belial even though they chase them out of the house and they could have caught them and done something, but the monsters don't seem like they know how to fight. Or they
no,
don't typically fight, but they're scary. They scare people, but then even when they get like a foot away, it's like the deputies still get away from them. They're able to get in their car and kind of push the monsters off of them and get in the car and get away.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I like that they kept that continuity with the monsters and not having the monsters actually, other than Belial, and kill people.
no, no, I agree with that. I would have never thought about that aspect of this film had we not discussed that on the second film about the fact that the monsters don't really do any of the violence. It's all left up to Belial to do that. I think it would have been a disservice to the other monsters if they were required to do any of the actual bloodletting and killing of other people. I think the fact that they just kind of surround the police's car is all within their character, their wheelhouse. So
Right. Yeah. 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 And then they bring Bilal, they bring him into the room. The other monsters, they bring him into the room to see the dead Eve, and he's just like, it's. I guess they do that on purpose, so they know they were going to set him off to go and kill the cops.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the funny thing about all this is that yeah, you mentioned it that anyone who is not part of the Granny Ruth's group considers Bilal's kids almost like little pets. Because when we get to the police station, and the first thing that happens is Opal wants to treat him like a pet. Uh,
Yeah, she wants to like keep one of them too. It's like
one of them. So, and the funny thing, the weird thing is they keep them locked up behind a jail cell. They keep them in the jail cell, so they're caged up like if they were a dog. And then she takes one of them as though it's a pet, and she'll say her daddy will let me keep one of them. I was like, wow. And so she treats it like a pet.
right. Well, before that all happens, that's the
Yeah.
scene we were talking about where she comes into the jail cell where Dwayne is, and she suddenly takes off her shirt, and she has like a leather bra on and leather panties and stuff, and some really kind of S&M sort of stuff going on. And she has a tattoo, like one on each of her arms. That one of them like says "chained for life," and the other one says "prisoner of love." And she says, she's like, says that Dwayne's an animal, but she's an animal too, and she knows how to handle it. And then she takes out goes and gets the whip and starts slashing on the ground and starts saying like bad prisoner and all this. And then she opens the door and comes in there and she's like naughty boys have to be punished. Um, but then like she takes the shirt off and he's kind of starting to get into it. But then she notices like she puts her hand on his side and then she notices his weird scar from where Bilal was attached to him. And that's like too much for her. She's like, what is this? You know, this is gross. This is really weird, you know? It's
Yeah. Despite
but
the
then
fact he's the one who's dressed up like the dominatrix. Uh,
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
he's the weird one because he has a scar. So she doesn't know
It's
what
a
the
pretty
scar.
intense scar. Yeah, she's like surprised by it because her hand kind of gets stuck in it, you know. But then the cop is her dad shows up, and it's like it's kind of he kind of reminds me a little bit of Buford T. Justice from Smokey and the Bandit a little bit, you know. I can see a little bit of that. It's not quite as hilarious, but he comes in and he's like put your clothes back on and get rid of that bullwhip. And
Has
he's like yeah.
yeah. Well, go ahead. I was about to interrupt, but I knew you were going to say something else. Go ahead, finish
You
your.
know, yeah, and then he's like says that she's grounded and all that, and but before that happens though, she's like Dwayne did this. He's been holding me against my will, and he's like, you know, he's like, get your clothes back on.
Well, he also says that stop messing with the prisoners, like she does it all the time, and he's.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Like that's
No,
what she does in her free time. She messes with the prisoners because she has some
yeah.
kiki fetishes.
Right. I don't even think she works there. I just think she's the sheriff's daughter, and she just like comes in there, and she's got like a fetish for the prisoners.
Yeah, she just chills out at the prison. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. But you know, hey, to each their own. I mean, I don't know how they do it in Georgia, but you know.
Well, I think more people would want to go to prison if that was how they were treated, you know.
Oh Jesus, Dave. Oh my God. All right, so obviously at this point, I think that the sheriff gets rid of the two people who originally broke into the big house and stole the babies, and then they told them to bring in the other police officers and um everyone else that works there at the station because after this we see the other police officers there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, what kind of happens there too, though? It's funny. The other two police officers come in. They tell him there's like an orgy at the other house, even though we don't see an orgy. But it kind of makes me think that maybe the cops did see an orgy, you know, because she got the condom, so maybe there was an orgy in there happening. Um,
Good point.
yeah. But then the sheriff, they're too scared to go back.
Yeah.
So the sheriff is like, I'll go back and check it out, and he gives them both different assignments. One of them is supposed to book Dwayne, and the other one's supposed to deal with the babies, which he doesn't do because that later on you see the babies on the desk with new deputies in there.
Mhm.
Um, but then when the sheriff goes to the house, he goes to like Hal's house, and he goes to the door. They don't let him in. Like nobody hears him because they're on their party, and he shoots open the door and comes in, and he sees everybody standing over like Eve's body. Um, and then Granny's like says she wants the children returned. Um, and then but the sheriff wants to know what's been done to Big Hal. But then the thing that saves the whole thing is Little Hal comes downstairs. He sends the cart downstairs to talk to the sheriff, and then that's just when we see Little Hal for the first time, like the full body
Full body.
Job of the Hut looking thing. But it's like he brings the sheriff, and then he the sheriff sees him, and I mean, it's kind of like Jabba the Hutt with a bunch of arms, and he's got a human head.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you on that. And you think that something was going to happen right then, but it really doesn't. Because I think there's still a little trust with the sheriff at this point, despite the fact that the whole house is filled with unique individuals. He ends up leaving there because nothing's really, really going astray yet. So,
Right. Well, the thing about that is he does say goodbye, sheriff. Like Little Hal for some reason says goodbye, sheriff, but the Bilal is the only one who's an enforcer. He's not at the house. It's all the other monsters. So the sheriff doesn't get killed there, even though had he gotten killed there, it would have been better for everybody else. even though the sheriff is, I mean, there's not very complicated characters here, but he starts off as a character that could be more complicated, but I think it's kind of weird that he isn't more accepting of the situation, seeing that he's kind of been into Hal for a long time. He's bringing some trinkets and stuff, and but like I think he may have been more accepting of it had it not been for the deputies and all this. But the deputies came into this house and killed Eve. Like they just killed her after they break it in and stole the babies. So I mean, they were definitely way in the wrong. But then they try to justify it by saying that they're freaks and they don't have the right to exist in this area, even though they haven't done anything but look ugly.
No, no, that's a good point to make. Yeah, that's a good point to make. And it does help to differentiate the cops from the rest of the characters in the film. Because for the longest time we have seen the sheriff be the person in between. Because he knew of Little Hal and he had a good relationship with Big Hal, and he has to run the entire town with these bigoted people, his own personnel. So we see,
Right.
we see a lot of stuff happening with him that doesn't come to a major boiling point until after he sees what happens to his daughter at the police station. At which point, the last third takes a really interesting turn. But before we get to that, we have to get to the fact that Bilal is wanting his kids back. uh,
Yeah, well, I think I don't know. He wants his kids back, maybe, but I think he more wants revenge on the police.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. I think you're absolutely right. I think he wants revenge for the death of Eve. I think Granny Ruth is probably more concerned about the kids. You are
Right. I
absolutely
don't think because he doesn't take the kids when he
no.
could. I don't think he wants them because then he has to take care of them. But it's like, that's when we're introduced to the new deputies, and they're sitting there with a basket of baby Belials, and one of them's got a pencil, and he's like sticking the pencil in its one of his ears, and then if one of the babies like eats the pencil eventually, and then they take a donut and they drop it in there, and they're like eating the donuts.
Like
It,
like putting that in there with a basket full of piranhas.
yeah, yeah. There's three very unique looking deputies here. There's like a kind of a heavier set one, and then there's a black one, and then another one who's kind of looks like the other deputy a little bit. He's kind of got like some facial hair and stuff. So, but these outside the police station, Bilal, like that other monster's carrying the basket, brings it up there, and then it ends up outside of the police station. So when the heavier set one there's actually having a conversation between the police and Opal's in there too.
Mhm.
And that's when she says she wants to keep one of them. But one of the police is kind of like
Scaredy cat.
is more yeah, well, one of them's scared of the whole thing, and the other one's kind of trying to he's more like kind of got his wits about him. And then that one that has his wits about him goes outside, gets the basket, brings it back inside, which has got Bilal in it.
Mhm.
And then he eventually he was the deputy opens the basket and Bilal jumps out and does his thing where he jumps on his face. But unlike some of the previous time this has happened, especially in part two, we actually get some prosthetic puppet face killing stuff. Like it's kind of a little like fake looking, but it looks like he squeezes the deputy's face and his eyes like pop out of his head, and
Yeah.
it's pretty, even though it looks fake, it looks very cartoony, but it's a lot of fun though, I think.
Oh, it definitely looks cartoony, but I think that's
Yeah,
the style they're going for with these
yeah,
deaths. I think all their deaths, because I think after the death of that cop, he goes to the other cop who
yeah.
uh he kind of twists his whole head off eventually.
Well, yeah, because he bites him on the lip. He basically it's like the black cop. He bites him on the lip, and he's like holding him. He's like eating his face, and he eventually, yeah, he whole head comes off eventually. And then the last deputy, who's the panicky one, he starts to. Well, it's funny because he's loading a gun the whole time he's biting this other guy's face off. The guy's like loading the gun for like 10 minutes while the other guy's getting devoured. And it's like, and the funniest thing is Bilal doesn't kill the sheriff's daughter. She walks into the room and the idiot deputy accidentally shoots her, and she's holding the baby, drops it on the floor, lands on it, and squashes it.
Yeah. So I do want to go back just for a second because the reason why she gets the baby using it as a pet and then goes down to see Dwayne. And when she goes down to see Dwayne, Dwayne sees his nephew for the first time. And
Yeah,
so he at that between that moment there seeing one of his kids his nephews for the first time, and then of course when he's upstairs when he's reunited his brother, he stops thinking about just trying to escape with his brother and instead wants to actually help.
yeah.
But that comes at the cost of one of the baby Belials. Because I don't know why they did it where she just literally just squishes him by sitting on him. That's just a disturbing little thing that happened to one of the little babies. And a little
Yeah.
innocent little baby gets sat on and squashed.
Yeah, but yeah, it was gruesome though. I thought it was like it was really unnecessary, but I thought it was a pretty nice touch. That whole sequence is crazy though because of how graphic and I mean it's cartoon violence, but it's so graphic and gruesome. And then, but, but then Dwayne he comes back out there and he puts Bilal back up, puts him in the basket, but then he wants to get the babies out, but they're inside of a jail cell and he can't get the door open, even though he starts looking for the keys, which are on. He's one of the deputies that doesn't have a head. He can't find the keys. With that, we didn't talk about that last idiot deputy who did the shot. Was it Bilal? Like he twists that guy's head around backwards and he falls on the floor. But I don't know why he can't get the jail cell open. They try to, I guess, and they can't do it, so they just leave.
Mm, yeah,
And then,
they leave and Bilal gets shot through the basket. Um,
right, yeah, the sheriff shows up and he shoots at Dwayne and hits the basket.
yeah.
And
Because
then,
yeah, Dwayne's not exactly all there just yet. Uh, he shoots the basket. Bilal gets injured, and then he ends up back at the big house with Granny Ruth and everyone else.
right, I don't know, but Dwayne's never. I think he had a mental breakdown after the end of the second one, and he never quite recovers from that. Here, he's still he's become a lot more loopy I like the way the actor does it too, because everyone seems like they're having a pretty good time doing this, really.
He talks to himself a lot because he doesn't have his brother to talk to. Uh, which is interesting. And the only I think when he kind of starts to wake up out of this trance, I think is when Bilal sees Eve's dead. I think is when Bilal screams and he can hear the scream. I made a note of it. Because for most of the movie, Dwayne has not been able to sense his brother. His brother's closed him off the entire.
Yeah.
I think when Bilal sees Eve's body, that's the first time where that connection gets reestablished again. Um,
So when he basically got the basket. Bilal's been shot. I'm thinking surely they're not going to kill Bilal. They killed Eve, but I mean, like he's been shot now. It's hilarious. The brother's like, Dwayne's like, okay, we got to get you to a doctor. No, wait a minute. He kills doctors. Then he remembers, I know who. We need to bring him to Little Hal. And then they bring it with little. There's like a time lapse here because then it cuts to Little Hal, and he's like working on some with his arms and stuff. He's working on some kind of like contraption with all his arms. Each one of his arms is doing something different. He's working on some kind of contraption thing. But then Dwayne, for the first time in the film, I think he talks to his brother, um, and then he doesn't, and he doesn't want to hear anything, and then he basically the brother has been patched up by Little Hal, and he's okay now. I guess he got the bullet out. Little Hal's a genius, and he can do things like that.
yeah.
Uh,
What's cool is you mentioned they're in Little House, little workshop. He's building something, and then we see generally what he's building by the fact that Dwayne pulls out this giant claw and he shows Bilal the schematics of what he's building or what's being built. If we don't see it clearly, which is good because we'll see a full reveal later when we see what they're actually built and why. But it's
Right.
interesting to see that scene there because
Yeah. And what really catches Bilal's attention, like Bilal seems like he's not interested in anything Dwayne has to say, but then Dwayne says, "You know, the two deputies that killed Eve are still alive out there." And then Bilal's like, "Huh?" Because he doesn't know which two deputies killed. He killed her because he killed all the deputies at the station, but he doesn't know the two that actually had anything to do with it are still alive. But it's interesting too that Dwayne he uses that to reunite with his brother. He's like, we got this thing together where we go out and I bring you places and you kill people. And so he wants to reunite with him by having him do that again.
yeah.
It's a very darkly comic humorous thing too. I was laughing about that just because of the way that I was laughing about a lot of stuff in this
And
film, but it just
this was
it's
a
just
lot. This one, I think, Henenlotter and crew decided to play up a lot more the comedy aspects. Even the deaths of the cops is all played for a lot of fun, as opposed to what happened.
yeah.
These like the exaggerated faces of the first copy kills, squeezed him his neck and his whole head and everything's exaggeratedly elongated. Even the African American cop who gets his face bitten off and then his head twisted, and then the other, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all ridiculously over the top and fun at the same time.
This, but he kills. I mean, he has this new machine that was made for Bilal, but we don't see it in full detail yet. The first deputy's asleep in his bed. He's like, and suddenly this metal claw comes out and just kind of gets him. But then we see the younger deputy who's also asleep in his bed, and he's like hung over, and he's in like some real like skimpy underwear. And then he starts hearing mechanical noises, and something comes, it cuts through the wall. It's like a saw blade cuts through the wall. And then meanwhile in the other room, Dwayne gets some cornflakes and he starts eating cereal. And in the background, you see the other deputy getting slaughtered by the machine that Bilal's using. So it's done for comedic effect. And and this is it. We're pretty close to the end of the film. It's like about an hour and 13 minutes left. But then the next bit is Eve's funeral. Like Granny and the other individual unique individuals are at the funeral, and then Granny does this ridiculous eulogy, like she does. Like they make these really silly monologues for her, and then she goes to the monsters, and she's like, "We have a dangerous and unpleasant task for you," and then they have to get the children back from the cops.
Mhm.
And she's like, "We owe them a better world." A time for hiding this past. This is their world now, and then the creatures are all riled up. Kind of like the second one. It's not as dramatic of a speech here, but it's actually plays in to an idea that we see at the end of the movie that she says the monsters it's time for them to stop hiding
Yeah,
and they need to come out and basically they need to. I mean, it's an interesting idea too. It's almost like a superhero thing, like say in Iron Man at the very end of the first Iron Man when he comes out and reveals to the world that he's Iron Man. She's saying that the creatures have powers, but when they're having but the people are making them hide, and when they people do see them, they try to kill them. So it's this whole thing's just getting tiresome for them.
yeah, yeah.
But then they go to the police station, Granny and the gang, where the sheriff's in there with his dead daughter still, and he won't give the kids back, and he says he wants to trade them for Belial, which they're going to meet at midnight or something like that. Which Granny agrees to it. She's like, "We'll trade Belial for the babies."
Yeah.
Um, Followed by there's so many like hilarious scenes. It's just like there's like a restaurant. This is like they've decided the
Oh
monsters
yeah.
are done hiding, and there's like a fast food restaurant, and they decide they're going to go eat at the fast food restaurant, and then they run everybody out, come up to the cashier, and Granny's just ordering like a ridiculous amount of food, and the cashier's like, "You're getting this to go, right?"
I love that scene. I love that scene to see them out there in the open, and especially considering that earlier in the movie we saw them when they stopped at the store in the bus, and Granny's the only one that gets out to go into the store. It's nice to see that at the end of this film that they go to a fast food joint, not just because they might be hungry, but because they're coming out of being of hiding. And there's no reason for them to hide. Not one of them has killed anybody except for Belial, to be honest with you.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I guess they are guilty by association or they're accomplices, perhaps. But really though, they're not wanted. Nobody knows who they are really. Um, then the next sequence is the meetup at midnight where the sheriff comes. He has the basket of babies with him. He's carrying this big, heavy basket of 11 babies and a shotgun in his other hand. Um, and then we see the Belial and the machine. It's like it looks a little bit like that thing that they in from Aliens, like Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley, like fights the alien with it at the end, like a huge.
It looks like that, but I was more thinking of Kang from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this big brain-like thing inside the robot body, uh,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
because of what Bilal is. He's a chunk of flesh with two arms.
Yeah, well, Bilal was injured when he got shot, so I guess, but at the same time, Bilal he fights fine. He doesn't need this contraption to fight. He's able to kill, especially if it's just one person. He's able to kill him pretty easily most of the time.
No, he
But this,
doesn't, but it's fun to see him in
yeah,
a loader. That's what it is from
mm,
the Aliens film. It's a loader. Uh,
yeah, right, yeah, yeah. No, it's a cool contraption, but as we see, it's not very effective.
no,
The sheriff's pretty smart actually, and he sees the weaknesses in the machine, and he finds ways of doing it because when we first see the legs first, and then what's weird is he has a head on top of it that looks like a mask. It's really fake looking. Do you think that's supposed to be a fake head or I don't know?
I think the concept was for it to look more human, despite the fact that it's all like an infrastructure for a robot. I think that that's part of Hal's the little Hal's thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, but you think that was probably just supposed to be a mask and not supposed to be a severed head, though?
nah, I think it was supposed to be a mask.
Okay, because it definitely looked like a mask, and
Oh, that's what I
yeah,
hope because it definitely does look like a
and
mask.
you're right. It's kind of bizarre. It would be kind of. I thought at first it was like one of the deputies' heads or something they had up there, like which would have been really gruesome had they done that. Um, but yeah,
Like
um,
being like opening the movie with Bilal and Eve having sex isn't like disturbing enough for audience members.
yeah. But this sheriff, one thing that's cool about the metal thing, the sheriff tries to shoot him, and a protector plate comes down real fast, and it blocks the bullet.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah, and then yeah, and then inside Dwayne ends up being there. He's got like a different machine that he's in there like messing with, and then Bilal's able to grab hold of the sheriff with the claw, and he throws him, and then he starts. But the sheriff actually grabs the legs and knocks the whole machine over, and he picks up a saw blade that fell off of it, and he starts trying to kill Bilal with it. But then what happens? The sheriff falls into the basket of babies, like the baby Bilals, and then they did like father like sons and daughters. They all decide they want to eat the sheriff. Yes.
well, it's really funny when he stands up and all he's covered in baby Bilal's all eating him. Um, like I almost wish that there was one of them that looked like Eve, but they all look like little baby Belials,
Yeah.
which is just funny as shit in my opinion. So
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's a great way to kill the guy because the sheriff wasn't necessarily like that bad of a guy, but he was definitely going to be a problem for him going forward. Even like kind of like in the second one, the reporters weren't necessarily that bad, but at the same time they did present a danger to the monsters, and but then after the sheriff's killed and they eat him, and then Dwayne's like, "Geez, this is going to be some family."
Uh,
And that's
Go ahead.
no, it's like then that's kind of that's really like the last real scene because the next scene is a TV show
I
which kind
love.
of fought. Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's like a Geraldo, like his name's Ronaldo. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know what, and he's got. We all know Geraldo Rivera had all the crazy guests on there, and this show, Ronaldo has the crazy freaks who have relationships with normal people. And as we all know, those shows were more or less manufactured, just like the one we're starting to watch. Until, of course, they break they break the back wall of the set, all of the freaks come out. With Bilal and Dwayne and Granny Ruth. Did you write down the speeches they give to close up the movie? But they're like they don't want to be hidden anymore. They're here. They're gonna be here. You just have to get used to them.
right. Well, I did write down part of it, but before she says that, Dwayne actually goes over to the host, the Ronaldo host, and he opens the basket. And Bilal attacks him. But which is, I mean, it's not a good look for him. Bilal attacking the host and killing him. But then, yeah, but then Granny Ruth says something to the assistant. I don't know if I wrote down the whole thing, but she's like, it's their world now. They're here to stay, and nothing's going to make them hide ever again. Something like that. And that's she says that to the camera, and that's how it ends. It's really an awesome ending, you
It's
know.
an awesome ending to this
Yeah.
because essentially the entire thing about this whole franchise, even with the first one, is that people look down upon unique individuals who have these ailments or these deformities. Uh, and we see it for the very first film where it's Bilal and Dwayne's parents, or really just the father who wants to hide the fact that he has the Siamese twins. Um, you know, and that whole idea
Right.
of trying to keep them in the closet, keep them away from society and all that, because we all got the sense that Bilal's parents were really well off, and they didn't want anyone knowing that they had a Siamese twins in the family or anything like that. And then, of course, in the second film, Granny Ruth is like harboring all of the unique individuals that she's discovered and found over her years, the ones that were in carnivals and stuff. She paid to have them, to set them free and to live with her, but they're
Right.
still hiding in the house. Like Granny gets on Dwayne when Dwayne is outside with Bilal. He breaks the rules of the house, and of course, the reporter sees him when he comes back in. He knows he broke a rule, and now he's jeopardized this entire structure that Granny Ruth has done. And then on this third movie, we see they're all taking a school bus to go to Georgia because they can't trust normal doctors. They have to go to someone who actually understands who they are. They're hiding. They're hiding in the bus. They're hiding everywhere, and they're always looked as freaks or as pets in this film. So I think that was a great way to end this franchise by saying we're not gonna hide anymore. You just better get used to it, even if one of them is a murdering person who will eat you.
Which they do that on TV. But that's yeah. I mean, I guess they almost have to, in a way, they're saying like, we're going to kill you if you don't leave us alone and let us do what we want to do. We're going to kill you. You know?
It's funny because Bilal's the only one in the entire franchise who's violent. Dwayne
Yeah,
kills oh, I can't remember the name all of a sudden in the second movie by accident because he
right.
can't handle it.
Well, she kind of like he pushes her back and she kind of trips and falls out the window, but it was more of a reaction and not like he didn't do it on purpose, but
But he does apologize for it. To Bilal, the scene in the end, towards the end, he does apologize for that, and he apologizes for involving the police officers and possibly getting Eve killed and stuff like that. So
yeah.
he feels a little responsibility for all that he may have accidentally done, but he's just a
Well,
klutz.
yeah, and it's so true though. That was the thing that's funny about it is I'm thinking that to that. Like if Dwayne hadn't have been such a spaz did the things he does in this film and go to the police station and Eve would have never gotten killed, you know? It's like it is like I mean, is that technically his fault because the police officers decided to get greedy and come do that, but he's the one that drew him there. So it's funny that he accepts responsibility for it by saying it, but it doesn't help. When Bilal hears that, he's like, "Yeah, you are the dummy that did that." So
Oh,
it's
dude, yeah. And it's a little. The only thing I think is the film is really missing is that scene at the very end where the Belial character has an acknowledgement of the 11 kids he now has. Like we get this a sense that it's really just about revenge and killing Eve in the film, and like his progeny is just a byproduct of everything that's happened.
really,
I think,
yeah. It's not cleared up, I don't think, by the end scene doesn't have the babies in it.
yeah, I think that would have gone a long way with his character if they had had a scene like that. Because we get that for the Eve when Eve gets killed, so we get a lot of that stuff. His emotional state when he sees Big Hal dressed up like a doctor. With Eve when she's pregnant, we see him lash out. But we just don't see. I think that's the only miss. That's like the one missing thing for me is that's that little thing that gels him and those kids because he's got 11 kids.
Yeah, yeah,
There was one kid and he got 11. Maybe
yeah.
a little overwhelming for him.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. It was for sure. I don't know what because we don't know exactly what Bilal's thoughts of the kids is. Luckily, there is a support system with
Yeah,
Granny and the unique individuals, so he doesn't have to take care of them all himself.
yeah,
We do see Dwayne, who ever since after the first one, he's been constantly trying to run and leave. It does seem in this last scene where they go on the show and he has the basket and he opens it up and Bilal kills the host that he's decided to stay. It does seem like he has made that decision to stay with this group of freaks at that point.
yeah. I think that's a great ending for him too because he's acknowledged that he's right where he belongs. I think is the best word. The right where he belongs. It's something that, oh, the young lady from the second film was trying to tell him all along, but he couldn't see it because he was too busy trying to be normal. But with this one, I think he finally acknowledges that, and that's why I say I like the ending to this franchise. I like the way that they ended it. Yes, this was a really big world that they crafted within these three films. But
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that they ended the way it did because it essentially says the ending of the Belial and Dwayne story because now you get a sense that they are like a real family unit. Whereas, but previously in all the other films that they were like reactionary to everything that was going on around them. Like in the first film, after their aunts died, they went on a killing spree to kill the doctors who were responsible for the operation. So I think this is the first film where they actually are kind of connected as a family unit with Granny Smith or Granny Smith, Granny Ruth, and all the other.
The Apple.
Yeah, I know. I said Granny Smith. All the other individuals in the film. So I really like the way the franchise is. This film may not be as great for me as the second film was, to be honest with you. But I think this one's a lot of fun, and I think this one right here ends this franchise in a high note in the way it should have ended. And it doesn't seem like a that much of a retread from the previous films because we get different aspects.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Right, yeah, I agree. It doesn't seem like a retread. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a retread at all. They've actually that's what I say, it was very creative and the plotting is very, very well done. It's very brisk pace when things happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So we spend like the first half an hour is as a trip on the bus getting to the location that we don't know exactly where they're going. And then the next part having birth and then the cops become a problem, and then the later part becomes a revenge story. But they dealt with stuff in very brisk manner and very with a very heavy dose of dark comedy,
Yeah.
which isn't overdone. I mean, it's not like a lot of it is subtle dark comedy, not necessarily subtle, but it's not that broad. It's a lot of it has to do with timing and how the scene ends and how like a character says something that's like just really darkly funny that it pulls from the other films, and it kind of gives this point of view of the things that they say, like okay, well, the next thing we got to think about is we got to go kill these other two deputies because they're still alive.
Hmm. Yeah, and the other thing is, I think between the first production, the first film and this film, and all his subsequent films in between and afterwards, Frank Hinenlayer, as a writer director, developed his dark humor extremely well. For all of you out there, I hope you have seen his other films, but you can see this type of humor from the second and third film segue into stuff like Brain Damage and Frankenhooker and Bad Biology right off the bat. He's like perfected his type of dark humor, which is very different to some of the other type of dark humor out there because he's working within the confines of the horror genre. And a risque subject matter at that. Just talking about Frankenhooker,
Yeah.
Bad Biology,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Brain Damage. If you've seen those films, you know he's not working within the confines of normal ideals in the normal world. His ideals are so far out there that I think the only way he could have figured out how to talk about them in his films is by using the dark comedy. And that's what made his film so extremely well done, although very cultish, very cult, more cult art.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually does very similar stuff with the female characters, other than Granny in the other films. Like the love interest type of characters. They all he does. He seem like he has a bit of a disdain for that trope. He almost like that trope. He doesn't like it, and he almost always has to sever it and really like make a mockery out of it in some way.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So
Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, because you're not expecting it.
yeah.
Once you know it, well, you maybe pinpoint it. Once you see it, I mean, including like I'm thinking like Brain Damage, a similar thing happens. But he definitely takes that trope that we're used to, and it doesn't go the way that we expect it to go.
Mm. No, I agree. I agree. And I'm actually just really glad that we were able to actually sit down and talk about something that Frank Hinenlayer has actually done. Because these are the first films of his oeuvre that we've been able to talk to on the program.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. They got a really good copy of Frankenhooker out. It's like a 4K version. I've never actually seen that film, but I've been considering getting it, but hadn't gotten it yet.
you know what? Just off subject a little bit. That was like the last of his films that I had seen because after Bad Biology, I had never seen Frankenhooker until after Bad Biology. Mostly because the poster looked weird to me when I was growing up when that movie came out. So I never put it together who had done the movie. I just saw the poster. I was like, that definitely doesn't seem a movie in my wheelhouse. And then, of course, I saw
Yeah,
it. And dude, that movie's so freaking fun. Um,
yeah. It looks great. I mean, actually, the new I like the new artwork on the cover of it now. But I think yeah.
I'll have to check it out because I don't know how I don't know which ones of his films have 4Ks. Probably Basket Case and Frankenhooker. I don't think Brain Damage or
Yeah.
Bad Biology have been given that treatment yet. So
Not yet. Basket Case. I mean, brain damage. Yeah, brain damage does have an Arrow Blu-ray release. That's pretty good, but as of now, they don't have a 4K.
okay, I didn't know that. I'll have to check out the Brain Damage one. I love that movie.
Yeah.
That's Brain Damage is the movie of his that got me to know who the hell he was. I didn't know who he was really until I had seen Brain Damage, and that has always been some weird film I just kept coming back to as a kid when I was growing up. Was that one?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
A parasite in his head. It's a cool film though.
Elmer, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. 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 It's
Oh,
very very dark sense of humor like these, but
oh, Oh yeah. Plus that ending scene in that movie stayed with me for a long time. I was like, my mind was literally blown when I saw the ending of that film. Like, what the hell did I just watch? Type of ending. Um,
Right.
but Dave, is there anything else we could possibly talk about for Basket Case 3 and or the franchise of Basket Case? Because there are no sequels after this one.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is, but nothing comes to mind at this moment. Yes.
For everyone listening, we don't always get the time to do like a complete assessment of all of the films within these franchises when we do these. But you know, if you listen to each one of the podcast episodes, you'll get a general idea of what we all think of the program in general. Maybe one day we'll be able to talk about all three in one podcast and really blow everyone's mind. Uh, but with that, I do want to thank you, Dave, for having this conversation with me about Basket Case 3. For everyone out there who's listening, what we normally do is we rate each film from 1 to 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we like to do is we like to take an individual object, quote, or saying from the film to attribute to our rating. What is your rating, and what object, quote, or saying are you going to attribute to your rating, Dave, for this film?
So I'm going to take some of the baby Belials for the progenies. I'll give it 3.5 of those. I thought it was a really solid end to this. I really appreciated the pacing and the new makeup on the monsters. I thought looked a lot better. I like the way the unique individuals had more. They were able to say more and not just be background. As far as like the franchise and the progression of it, I thought this one's very similar to two, but it's like a little more polished, but it is a little more. It's polished as far as what you see on screen, but not necessarily the script. But
Mhm.
the script is a little more loose than the second one.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
yeah, I liked it though. I liked the looseness of it. The first one's very independent, a very indie type of feel to it, and it's a cult classic by its own right. But I think it's a very you said it earlier divisive franchise. I don't know if I'd say divisive, but it's not necessarily one that people. I think not divisive for me, but I think maybe some people might not
Agree.
connect with it.
Yeah.
I think they might have it depends on their sense of humor. They might be able to watch the second and third one maybe without seeing the first one. Once you see the first one and how rough around the edges it is, if you don't have the patience for watching that type of film, like then you might not it might be tough for you because the acting's not that good. Some of it acting's okay, but a lot of it's very amateurish and it's a very independent film. And I mean, I think it's a great film. But at the same time, you have to be able to handle watching that sort of thing. So it might be hard to get into this franchise to begin with.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. Because for me, I think we've discussed this. Because I watched them out of order. I always thought the first one, was not nearly as good as the sequels because I watched them out of order, and it took me a long time to get around to watching the first one. But after studying about grindhouse cinema and always kind of getting that whole mentality of what the films and what the audiences wanted from that grindhouse cinema, I kind of have an appreciation for the first film, which is why it's such a huge cult film. I mean, you have to keep in mind when it was made and who the audience it was for. It's a grindhouse.
Yeah.
The same respects that stuff like the original Toolbox Murders, or what was the other one I was thinking of, or Last House on the Left, or any of those other kind of grungy type of films like are. And if you can get into that mentality, you can really appreciate that first film, whereas the second and third film are much more polished with a better budget, and it was not neither one of these are grindhouse movies. Neither one of these are
No.
grindhouse movies. These are
I
like,
felt yeah. I do feel like this one's like the second one, a younger crowd could watch that one, I mean, a younger crowd could watch any of them, obviously, but I think that one almost has a more of a younger crowd type of thing going on. But this one gets a lot more graphic with the violence and it has a little bit of nudity in it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, most definitely. And I think I think with this one, I think if you can enjoy the previous films, you will really enjoy this film. And I do hope that people, we always say this when we get to the third film in franchises. So many people give up after like the first or second movie, and they don't ever bother with the third movie. So I would think that there's probably more people who have never heard of or seen the third film than they have the first or second one. And I think, like you just said, if they can't get past like the atmosphere and the grindhouse aesthetics of the first film, they may never get around to watching the second or third film. But we do
It's a
hope.
very jarring though aesthetic difference between
Yeah,
them because you might not like if you like the first one a lot, the next ones may be not up your alley too.
that's a
You
good
know,
point. Hey, that is a very good point to
but
make. Whereas if you
what yeah.
one like I did, you may love the second one more so than going back and watching the first film. Yeah, you are absolutely right.
What do you would you end up rating this one, the third one?
Rating it 3.5 squashed baby Belials.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I still find that scene hilarious and crazy at the same time. I found
yeah,
it hilarious and crazy and tragic when I first saw this movie. I was like, damn, that's fucked up.
yeah.
And when I rewatched it for the podcast episode, I saw, damn, that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's darkly gruesome, and that's the one she takes, and she's like, "I'm gonna keep this one," you know.
She just
Yeah,
sits on them. Just it's not like the
yeah,
doors. Her body sits on them. Like they could have killed him in different ways, a little baby Bilal, but literally
yeah.
sat on him. And I'm like,
Yeah. Well, two. I mean, two things happened there too, because the fact that she gets shot by the dumb deputy, and then she falls on top of the baby and crushes it to death, and it's just so gruesome, and it's like it's a very shocking, jarring moment. But that's great that they had that in there because that is like, that is what you remember. I mean, from that.
yeah. So, all right. So, with that, I hope you all have enjoyed listening to us talk about Basket Case 3, The Progeny. Please make sure to check out all the other episodes that we've done on the Basket Case franchise. Please also make sure to check out the other episodes we've done this month for the other franchises. You're going to have a lot of fun. We've touched upon the Jaws franchise, the Warlock franchise, and what's the other franchise we did? Oh, Phantasm. The
Phantasm,
complete
yeah.
Phantasm franchise. So you're going to have a lot of fun listening to the episodes that we have in store for you this month. Please make sure to check them out on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube. And make sure to check out our companion podcast, Conversations in Horror, Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves into the classic Hammer Studio films for the 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you are a classic horror film lover, you will enjoy that podcast. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a pleasant day. And please, if you see a wicker basket on your doorstep, close the door and leave it there. Broken the House, take 3. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production. Written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Executive producer Kelly A. Inoka.